Chapter 11. The sun was drifting lower in the western sky, caught in a mesh of utility lines and billboards when Robin found Wolper in the coffee shop at Santa Monica and La Brea. Across the street, a jacked-up Monte Carlo had skidded over the curb and plowed through one wall of a comic book shop. Copies of Batman and Spider-Man and Wonder Woman were scattered on the sidewalk, the 4 color pages flapping in the breeze. A crew of young boys loitered at the edge of the crime scene, surreptitiously collecting the comics. Wolper was seated in a window booth, without his uniform, wearing a turtleneck and jeans. He looked like a different man, but she noticed that he was still squeezing the rubber ball in his left hand. I hope I didn't keep you waiting, she said as she took the bench seat opposite him. I had trouble finding a place to park. No problem, I just got here a couple minutes ago. She nodded toward the window. It's a real mess out there. He shrugged. No serious injuries. I take it you talked to the officers at the scene. I checked in for a second. Force of habit. Was the driver drunk? Just a moron. He was changing a tape in his cassette player. Took his eyes off the road. Hopefully he'll lose his license. Even if he does, he'll keep driving. Half the people in LA drive unlicensed. She looked out the window at the small crowd of onlookers. I'm surprised there weren't more witnesses. There were a million wits. They all ran off. Legal aliens, afraid we'll turn them into INS. Which we wouldn't, but they don't trust us. It's getting to be so the only wits we can count on are the panhandlers and the pallet guys. Pallet guys? You know, those wooden crates they ship things in? You can break them down into pallets, sell them for reuse. Reuse. You see guys hauling them around in shopping carts, pallet guys. Anyway, they'll stick around and talk. Never show up to testify in court, but this thing won't get to court anyway. Too many higher priorities. Too much insanity in this city. He gave her a look. You have a kid? The question coming out of nowhere surprised her. A daughter, 15. "15? What'd you do?" "Get married at age 12. She shrugged off the compliment. I'm 39. I had Meg when I was in med school. Isn't med school tough enough without raising a baby? You'd think so, wouldn't you? It wasn't exactly planned. I had my life all worked out. 4 years of pre-med, 5 years in med school, hospital internship for 1 year, 3 years to a master's in psychiatry, 2 years psychiatric residency, private practice by age 32. I'll bet you stayed on schedule even with a kid." "Well, yes, I'm kind of determined once I set my mind on something." "I noticed." "Why'd you ask if I had a child?" "'Cause I've got one too. A son, Zachary, 12 years old. I don't see him as much as I'd like. My wife and I split up, but whenever I get to spend a night or a weekend with Zach, I think about this city. The insanity here. More and more of it every day. I think about that and what it might do to him." "I know what you mean. You worry about your daughter, huh? Too much, all the time. The curse of parenthood. You bring them into the world and then you can't let go, even when they want us to. It would be easier if I was there more often, but you know how it is in a divorce. Well, maybe you don't." "I do, actually. My husband, X, is up in Santa Barbara creating art." "Art? You make a living at it?" "Surprisingly good living. Hope he keeps up the child support. That's the one area where he's proven reliable. Good for him. The man should never abandon his own child. It's the worst thing he can do." Wolper smiled. "Listen to me. With all the crap I've seen, you wouldn't think a guy missing his support payments is the worst crime I could think of." He shook his head. "You didn't come here to talk about this." "Not really." So, what exactly is the problem, Doctor? She hesitated. How much do you know about the Eddie Valdez shooting? I know it was thoroughly reviewed by the OIS team. That's short for Officer Involved Shooting. Brand's actions were found to be within use of force guidelines. But there was no witness to the shooting, correct? There was only Brand's account of what happened. There was ballistics evidence, Wilper said carefully. Lieutenant, what is a patch? It was his turn to hesitate. A patch. Well, it's a cop's take of the bad guy's take. A payoff to look the other way while crimes are committed? I need to know why you're asking me this. She ignored him. Who are the G's? Drug gang in our division. G's is short for gangsters. The San Pedro Street Gangsters is what they call themselves. What the hell did Brand tell you? More than he intended. The technique I use has a way of releasing a person's inhibitions, like truth serum. No such thing as truth serum, but this procedure may be a pretty close equivalent. You're saying he witnessed a payoff. I'm saying he received a payoff, then shot Valdez when he came up short. It's ridiculous. That's what he told me. There has to be a mistake. There may be. I can't be sure Brand's story was true. That's what we need to find out. Tell me about the shooting. A waitress interrupted them, delivering menus. Wilper gave back the menus unexamined and ordered 2 cheeseburgers, 2 Cokes. You're not a vegetarian, are you? He asked Robin belatedly. Cheeseburgers, fine. Okay, the shooting. Sergeant Brand was riding in his unit, alone. Shouldn't he ride with a partner? Sergeants don't have partners. They function in a supervisory capacity. As a matter of fact, Brand was on his way back from supervising a crime scene. Isn't that the watch commander's job? Brand had the watch that night. The lieutenant, not me, was off. Alright, so he's heading back to the station when he sees Valdez enter a parking garage on foot going down the ramp. Right away, Brand is suspicious. Valdez is known in the neighborhood. He's been picked up for ripping off car stereos, boosting vehicles, and being an all-around pain in the fucking ass. Was he a member of the San Pedro Street Gangsters? Good question. We never made him as a G, and the coroner didn't find any gang tats on him. So he wasn't. He could have been a wannabe or someone they used as an errand boy, but he had no gang ties we know of, and there was no gang presence at his funeral, far as we know. He was just a small-time street criminal. And Brand saw him going into a parking garage? What time was this? 200 hours, 2 a.m. I mean. I can translate what happened next. Brand calls it in on his radio, says he's checking out a 503, possible auto theft. Did he request backup? No. Isn't that unusual, especially considering he was alone? He may not have shown the best judgment. Like I told you yesterday, Brand is a street cop. He figures he gets paid to take chances. He's not one of those guys who sit behind a desk waiting to go 20 and out. So he's a cowboy. Christ, you're like a damn reporter putting words in my mouth. He shook his head, sorry, but I get tired of hearing good men called cowboys or vigilantes whenever they show any balls. Let's put it this way. When you call 911 to report a hot prowl, do you want the cop who responds to wait around for backup or to suck it up and do his job? I'm not trying to be confrontational, Lieutenant. Right, whatever. Anyway, not calling for backup isn't cowboy stuff. It's Sergeant Brand's assessment of the threat level. He knows Valdez. He has him pegged as a knucklehead and a troublemaker, but not violent. If he catches Valdez boosting a tape deck, he can handle the arrest on his own. Alright, now Brand is in the garage, and he looks around for Valdez, but the asshole, the kid, isn't visible. Brand thinks maybe Valdez has already gone to another level of the garage. It's one of those multi-story things. Then he sees movement in a corner and he heads toward. He thinks Valdez is trying to bust into an SUV. He's wrong. Valdez heard Brand come down the ramp, and he's waiting for Brand with the .38 Special. A .380 wheel gun. Surprised you know that term. Brand said that was the kind of gun he planted on Valdez after the fact. That doesn't prove anything. Did Valdez use a gun in any of his earlier crimes? No, but it's not hard to believe he'd be carrying. Hell, everybody in Newton is carrying. Shooting Newton, we call it. So Valdez makes a move on Brand. They struggle. Brand pops him at close range, calls in a 998, requests the captain, the coroner, and a shooting team, all by the book. When units respond, they find Valdez dead of a single gunshot to the head, and Valdez is 38 on the floor by his body. Case closed. No, not case closed. The waitress returned with their orders. They said nothing until she was gone. Then Wolper leaned forward, elbows on the table, his left hand furiously squeezing the rubber ball. There was a thorough investigation. Brand was put on leave, sent to behavioral sciences for trauma counseling. Ballistics came back clean. Tapes of his 2 radio calls were consistent with his story. He is a decorated veteran officer, and Eddie Valdez was street scum. There was no reason to doubt that it went down exactly like Brand said. Robin sampled her cheeseburger. It was good. And the gun, did it belong to Valdez? It couldn't be traced. Then Brand could have planted it just as he said. It could have been a throwaway. Throw down. Wolper corrected through a mouthful of burger. Police officers don't carry those. Oh, come on. Not in my jurisdiction. How can anyone believe that after Rampart? We cleaned up the department since Rampart. We don't tolerate road cops. Even if we did, our Brand isn't one of them. Then why did he say what he said in session? I don't know, but I sure wouldn't convict a man on the basis of something he said while he was undergoing some kind of experimental therapy. Fair enough, and I admit there are legitimate questions. That's why I came to you. To me, as opposed to Deputy Chief Wagner. He's the one I probably should be talking to, but I didn't want to do anything rash. I didn't want to risk damaging Sergeant Brand's career unnecessarily. You bring this to the top brass, you better know what the hell you're getting into. Brand can't be a bad cop. This stuff he said, it's got to be a glitch or something, faulty wiring maybe. You had things set on high when it should have been medium. It's not a toaster, Lieutenant. Wolper took a long, thoughtful swallow of soda. Valdez was a righteous shooting, had to be. I hope you're right, Robin said. I really do. How's this? I'll take a look at the file on the Valdez shooting and see if there are any loose ends. You have access to the file. I have access to somebody who can get me a copy. What do you say we meet tomorrow and go over it? All right. Your office, afternoon. My last session is 3 p.m. Should be over by 4. He looked worried. Not Brand again. No, you don't have to worry about that. It's just a nice, safe inmate from county. Okay. If you're so sure Brand is innocent, why were you afraid I'd be seeing him again? In my line of work, you learn never to trust anybody 100%. That's maybe why my wife left me. Lack of trust. It's that whole stupid intuition thing. Intuition? Max was always going on about that, how I didn't have any intuition, that is. How I think everything through in a straight line, A to B, B to C, no imagination, no feel for people or situations. That's what she said. What the hell? She was right. Do you think so? Probably. Hell, I took the detective exam twice, didn't pass. My opinion was that it was damn affirmative action. When you're a white male, it's not enough to score well. You gotta ace the test. But sending my ex that a detective needs to be intuitive, and I'm not. And you think she's right? She could be. To be honest, I don't even know what she's talking about. Intuition, what the hell is that anyway? Just another word for guessing. Police work shouldn't be guesswork. Intuition involves more than... He waved her off and picked up the rubber ball again. Yeah, I know. That's your thing, right? Look at a patient, just kind of sense what makes him tick. It's all head games. It's not a game. It's voodoo. I'm sorry, but that's how it looks to me. If you look deeper, you might change your opinion. Changing my opinion isn't a real common occurrence with me. Robin believed him. She said nothing. I've been around a while, Wolper went on, and I know what's real and what isn't. The job you do, it's moonshine to me. I deal with facts, not feelings. If you can't touch it, smell it, taste it, what the fuck good is it? Getting a handle on feelings, it's like trying to grab a fistful of air. She tried to smile. At least nobody can accuse you of being one of those touchy-feely new age guys. Yeah, that's one thing I've never been called. What would you like to be called? How would you like to be thought of? I take things as they are. That approach works for you. You're comfortable with it? I'm comfortable. Why are you squeezing that ball? He looked at it as if surprised to see it in his grasp. This thing, it's just a workout for my hand. Keeps the fingers strong. He smiled. Okay, that's a snow job. It's a way to release tension, better than going out and getting drunk. Or going to the dog fights. That too. You can't be happy that a sergeant in your station house is breaking the law, even if it is on his own time. I'm not happy. Just accept it. It's something Bran has to do, for now. It's a fact, and I'm a realist, like I said. It's realistic to let one of your men engage in self-destructive behavior. Self-destructive? He snorted. You sound like a documentary on PBS. The man is just blowing off steam by watching two animals tear each other up. Wouldn't be my choice. Makes me sick, to be truthful. But if that's what he needs to get through the day... How'd you even know he was going there? There aren't too many secrets in this department. That's pretty vague. You want specifics? All right. A house in Watts was raided a month ago for dog fights, and Bran was picked up along with the rest of the crowd. He called me. I got the charges dropped. He told me he'd been going there a lot. He also told me he was going to stop. He lied. He weakened. Anywho, I'd heard that the fights had started up again in a new house, same neighborhood. When Bran didn't show up for work today, I had a feeling he would be there. Then why don't you get the fights shut down again? It's out of my territory. That's not an answer. We have 1,000 homicides a year in this city. You want me to focus on animal abuse? We've got our resources tapped out just trying to save human lives. Besides, if you shut those scums down, they'll just start up again in a week or a month. It's the way it is. Realism, Robin said tonelessly. Wolper shrugged. Welcome to L.A. They had finished their burgers and they were all out of conversation. Both seemed to sense it. So Wolper said, let me give you the address. I already know it. I'm a cop, remember? He smiled. I find out things about people who interest me. Robin pondered that remark as she drove away. It was just barely possible that Lieutenant Wolper was trying to get something going between them, one divorced single parent to another. She wasn't sure how she would feel about that. There had been no romance in her life since her marriage ended. She'd known she would have to restart her personal life eventually, but the prospect of enduring first dates and awkward kisses at the doors, not appealing. Well, no, that was a thin rationalization. The truth was, she'd been scared away from relationships by the failure of her marriage. She'd been afraid of repeating the same mistake. In retrospect, her relationship with Dan had probably never had much of a chance. She had married him, it was now safe to admit this, chiefly because he was the opposite of her father. Yes, Daniel Cameron, the artist, a man who is gentle and sensitive, and nonviolent and law-abiding, who would not deserve her and leave her crying and alone. But then he had deserted her anyway, emotionally at least. Her efforts at self-protection had failed. Robin shook her head. She was aware that in her work she was in effect trying to rehabilitate her father. That was obvious. Cookbook Freud, as someone had once said, but was she trying to rehabilitate Dan too? To symbolically resuscitate the corpse of their marriage? She's probably overthinking things. She hoped so. She didn't want Dan to be controlling her life when he wasn't part of it. Now she was planning to meet a man to discuss a police file in a shooting case. Not exactly an evening of dinner and dancing. And Wolper wasn't exactly the man she pictured as her boyfriend. Too stiff and righteous. He didn't respect what she did. He called it voodoo, moonshine. What he thought of as realism, she viewed as cynicism. Not a good match for her. No way. No way, she said aloud as if to confirm it to herself.